Hi, everybody. I'm Dan McDermott, your host. Google confirms that cops can wiretap Hangouts, which makes them seemingly less secure than other forms of communication, like, say, FaceTime and iMessage. Sources tell the Wall Street Journal you'll soon see a Buy It Now button for Google products or for products in Google search results on mobile. Google has blocked Chrome extensions unless they are from the Chrome store. More sites have been negatively affected by Google's push to downgrade non-mobile friendly sites on mobile search. Sites that have lots of crap loading also seeing reductions, as are entire domains that have spammy, bloaty sites only on part of their network. Verizon buys the content factory that is AOL. Facebook is encouraging publishers to put content directly on Facebook so that it will load faster. 10 times faster, they say. Is this logical, or yet another move toward walled gardens, competing against the open web? And Google's cute little driverless cars are hitting the roads of Silicon Valley. We'll talk about those and whatever else comes up on this edition of Google Plus Week. Let's meet our panel. Pam Adger is there. Welcome, Pam. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing quite well, thanks.
Good.
And Sheila Dubois joins us from Pam is in California, that state with no water. Sheila is joining us from Utah. You're landlocked, right? You have no water. You have more water than California, which has the Pacific Ocean.
Well, yeah, we're getting water. It's been raining.
Pam, what's an update on that real quick? Just, I'm curious. I keep hearing that, I guess desalination is apparently more difficult. And then I heard that 80% of the water, correct me if I'm wrong, I know everyone in California has become a water expert of late through necessity. But I understand 80% of the water is used for agriculture, which employs like 5% of the people, or consumes 5% of the land and employs 3% of the population. So there's kind of like there's the natural tension building between ag and non-ag. Is that at all accurate?
It provides over 90% of the strawberries, almonds, walnuts, pistachios, broccoli, lettuce,
Avocados,
and tomatoes to the United States, the rest of the United States.
And I'll fill in for Michael Ellis. Grapes. There's grapes.
Grapes. So there's
it really is
give
the
and
bread
take
basket
there.
of the country in a way, right?
Maybe not the bread basket, because when I think bread, I think wheat. I don't think we produce more than 50% of the wheat, but definitely the produce section.
But like, okay, if 80% is agriculture,
I
or is
think
that
the
wrong?
number's a little less than 80%.
But it's a chunk of
but
change.
I'm not going to really argue too much. It's somewhere between 70 and 80%. Yeah.
So, what do you do? I mean,
well, the first thing we do is we stop companies like Nestle from bottling our water to sell to people who don't want tap water.
Why do they have to use California water? There's all sorts of water in other states that they could bottle up.
Mountain spring water, I don't know. We have lots and lots of mountains in California on California side, and I'm guessing that we also have lots of springs, Arrowhead, up in the Shasta area, Northern California, and because the water laws that were made however long ago have lots of giant loopholes in there, and not only do they use the water, they don't really pay for it.
And I imagine there's all sorts of lobbyists at play if they try to change any of those laws.
Yeah, the Crystal Geyser lobbyists are currently in Sacramento. I don't know. I don't have enough information right off the top of my head to give too much of an in-depth analysis of it. But yeah, it's definitely a complicated problem. And the water restrictions that were handed out are uneven, meaning places like Beverly Hills, Palm Springs, and I think there might be a few other cities or whatever have to cut their water by over 30%, and places like where I live, it's only 18%. So
Well, they
there's
said like, okay, question. They said like
it's based on usage.
an almond tree. Is it a tree?
Yeah.
It's a tree, right?
Yes, it's a tree.
I mean, I don't know if it's like an almond plant or a vine of
one
almonds.
one almond, one
80 gallons,
one
right?
almond. No, one almond takes just over a gallon of water. to
I thought it was
produce.
80 gallons per almond.
No, it's 1.18 or something like that per almond.
Okay. So
So-
here's the question. You say it takes up. Now what does that mean? Does that mean that it's filtered through there? Because there's certainly not a gallon of water in an almond. It's
No, it takes. So they have an average number of almonds per tree, right? And how many gallons that tree needs to produce almonds. Then they do division, right? So just think about that. Let's say there's 1,000 almonds on a tree, then that tree requires 1,000 gallons a season or a year to keep alive and producing almonds. So they divide that 1,000 by the number of, average number of almonds per tree.
what happens to the water? I mean, a tree's not a sponge. Is it evaporated, or
Well,
like a
it's the
human,
same
for
thing
example,
that happens
consumes
when we
water
drink
and then
water.
when
Let's
we
say-
pee? But does a tree pee? It does the opposite.
Well,
it sucks
no,
water up
no,
from the
it-
roots.
It gets rid of some of its water through its leaves, right? And the other water it uses in its metabolism, the photosynthesis, uses water to convert sunlight into energy.
But isn't it? I mean, like a percentage of our bodies are water. I think primarily
Yeah.
it's water. But
Yes.
I am not containing the sum of the water I have consumed in my lifetime.
Right.
It is passed
Right.
through urine or sweat or whatever,
Yeah.
breathing out. Isn't it?
Yep.
Is it unfair
True.
to say that every almond is consuming and not returning a gallon of water? You know what I mean? In the same way that
Trees and plants respire. They take in carbon dioxide, right, and they give out oxygen and water. So there is
There's a balance.
there's a balance. I mean, not every drop we drink is then excreted either.
That's true.
We actually use water in metabolic processes, and we actually break apart those bonds inside
Okay.
our bodies.
Some don't let go as fast as others. That's what they
So-
call water retention.
well, in general though, in summary of this could be
Yeah.
one of Pam's last appearances. So it's been great having Pam on the program. She's been a great gal, a good friend. It's so sad about the whole water thing.
Actually, where I'm at, Utah has a little bit of water restrictions too.
Aren't you like a desert?
It's supposed to be.
But you have
Yeah,
more water than
but-
California, which borders the Pacific Ocean.
Well, some places don't. We don't have as much water as we used to have. Because our lakes and our dams are all a lot lower than they have been, and our winter was not very good. And so that all projects down the line.
But
So-
if you get low, you can just buy some bottles of Nestle water from Pam.
Oh, that Nestle's water is nasty.
All right. So anyway, basically California is going to be evacuated and turned into sand. Okay, so all that happened. Google confirms cops can wiretap Hangouts. I saw this today. It's a few days old, but this doesn't come as a surprise. I think initially Hangouts was on a third company's technology. I forget, because remember it was something that they were using to communicate with Stockholm, and I don't know if they're still using some third-party stuff or whatever, but I think the basic thing is that with to compare it with, in the article I read, with FaceTime and with iMessage, the encryption is from, if Pam and I each had an iPhone or whatever, and we were communicating through those things, the encryption is from my device to Pam's device. Whereas with Hangouts, it's encrypted until it reaches Google, from your computer till it reaches Google. And we are in a Hangout right now, and then the top little box there is being broadcast with YouTube Live, is like that. And then I'm in the Hangout as well, bottom right there, but I'm also straight to live. So I don't care about this because frankly, I could use the view count. If they want to watch my show, they can just watch it and save a whole lot of subpoena trouble. But is this at all surprising to either of you? And are you concerned, Pam, that, oh my God, on top of being parched in the desert that used to be California, now the government's spying on all your crazy Hangouts?
So
They're spying on everything else, so it shouldn't matter. If you're not doing anything, go ahead, Pam. Go ahead.
no, go ahead.
To say if we're not doing anything illegal, why should we worry?
Well, that's the standard argument in favor of any government surveillance. And that's my view. I don't care,
Yeah.
Pam, what do you
If they
think?
really want to go through the trouble of getting a judge to sign off on a wiretap, have at it. I don't personally. I don't care. I don't think it's any different than phone tapping or anything else. So
I think
it's
most
just
people don't care.
a video. It's a video version, right? It's a video version of phone tapping. So that the laws already exists, and the rules as to how cops can get that already exist. So I don't know that it's any more malevolent than any other wiretap.
Okay, so
Yeah,
here's
yeah.
the thing. Here's my view. I don't think this resonates with the public. I don't think they care. Here's why. Because if the kind of things, logically, let's say I was in a Hangout with someone about purchasing or selling a business, something secret. Just, I wouldn't want competitors to know or employees to know, right? And that's not happening, but, just an example. Let's say Pam was having a naughty conversation with her husband, right? Nothing wrong with that. Let's say, Sheila, you're thinking about quitting your job and you're talking to a prospective employer. Now, these are all things that we wouldn't want anyone to know. And if we started seeing a rash of renegade NSA types or local cops abusing this subpoena power, and these things leaking, and people being embarrassed or being fired because of it, or getting a divorce because of it, or what have you, then I think you'd see the public enraged. I think it would be, not to the degree, but just like now everyone's becoming an expert on how to stop a train that's speeding. About,
Yeah, and they would have
so-
to know. Wouldn't they have to know when you're in it?
right, but I haven't seen a rash of
so-
this. I haven't seen a rash of these leaks. The only big leaks we've seen are leaking that the government can spy on you, but I haven't seen any negative effects that Joe Sixpack can understand or sympathize with. Is that? What do you think, Pam? Or Sheila? Or
No, I agree. But then again, how long ago has it been since the news came out? Right?
few days. But I mean, I don't know. I just haven't seen any Hangouts leak. But it could be like maybe some media, like the scandal in England where the reporters they kept saying hacking into cell phones, but really it was if celebrities or some target of a reporter didn't change the default password to access their own voicemail, they would call the phone number, get the voicemail, and hit the code, and it was like 1234 or whatever it was, and they could listen to the voicemails. And so it wasn't like a sophisticated hacking thing. It was just sort of common sense if you've had a cell phone, I guess, in the UK. But not to excuse the behavior, but it wasn't, major CIA quality stuff. So anyway, go ahead.
So guess the mid 90s or whatever, we used to have a scanner, like a police scanner, right? And it was this walkie-talkie looking thing with a antenna, and it had a range that we could listen to, and any kind of radio broadcasts, CB broadcasts, and these things called cell phones were just coming into being, and they were in this big this big battery pack with the actual receiver phone and all that stuff, and we could pick up conversations all the time. And there are plenty of devices out there. You go to spystore.com or whatever, your favorite paranoid conspiracy theorist site that you want to go on, and you can find these devices that are made for spying on your neighbors or your friends or your lover or your business partner or the dude down the street that you have an obsession over, whatever. I mean, truthfully, privacy is gone. People keep wanting to think it actually exists, but it's totally gone. You just have to, I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
What do you do, curl up in a ball?
We got some comments. Go ahead, Sheila, while I get the comments ready.
It's like if you're in a store that's got Wi-Fi and you're connected to it because you don't want to use your data.
Or Bluetooth.
Yeah. Well, you're wide open for anybody to see and read and watch what you're doing.
You may not like what Eric Schmidt said, but he was right. He said if you don't want your naughty photos leaking, don't take naughty photos. Now, Jeff Stoner, a local guy whose name I just adore, saying Jeff Stoner says it doesn't matter if you're not doing something illegal. It's none of their effing business in the first place. Now, that's one view. I would say if they're trying to determine, to use a topical thing, who was the Boston Marathon bomber, and they go through and get a subpoena to wiretap some phones of the friends of this guy to see if they can implicate and prove that the guy did it, I think it is their effing business. But these things could be abused. And the point I made earlier is there is not rampant evidence. There's no evidence that I'm aware of rampant abuse of this power. It seems there's usually a trail of who gets the subpoena, and if you're looking up searches on government computers to look up Social Security, there's a trail tracking that. And I've seen convictions of people who abused that. Like if there was some hot girl and they were looking up her private information and stuff, and they got busted. So there's that. And then let's see if we got any juicy comments on the post here. Cy, if you really want to understand the California watershed, check out the Cadillac Desert series. There are several others in this series. This is just part one. It's on YouTube. So this is on the post. This is May 15, 8:50 Google Plus Week. If you're watching this later, you want to find any of these comments, just do a search on Google for Google Plus Week 5/15/2015, and the comments are right there.
And I think they did a mainstream movie called Chinatown. God, it's been so long. I'm not quite sure I got that name right.
Pam's hungry and Freudian slips are happening. And she'll be hungry again in 2 hours.
I could totally be wrong about this, but I see it was 1974. Yeah, inspired by the California water wars. Yeah, Chinatown. So there's a little bit of fact in that fictional movie as well. So
Okay, so all right, I just it's I mean the courts have long held that if the police are doing an investigation, if they can convince a magistrate or a judge or what have you, um, but then with the Edward Snowden stuff, we don't know what they need for warrants and what they don't need. You know what they can do warrantlessly,
exactly,
etc.
exactly. Now let's clarify that language, right? If I'm going to give up my privacy completely to the government, if they have some kind of probable cause or whatever, and can get a judge to sign a thing, great. If this falls under the NSA, we're just going to collect all your shit and keep it in a drawer somewhere. We might need it someday, that kind of thing. Then that's something different. You know, if they're specifically saying that this falls under wiretap, then they need a judge to sign off on that wiretap. They can't just willy-nilly, go get it later. Oh crap, we listened to her shit, and then now we got to go get, a warrant.
They can
or
okay.
whatever.
So I think there's the newest bill introduced says that that the companies would retain the data. Frankly, with the exception of Snowden, I think I trust the government to hold the data more than I trust the companies with all the hacking that's gone on. Target comes to mind. I don't know. I mean, I think I think any common sense person, any fair person, unless you're like some privacy freak, would see both sides of this. We're nervous about the possible overreach by the government. At the same time, to use the topical thing, with the Boston Marathon thing, when they identified this suspect, the first thing was, are more attacks coming? That's the first question. Who did it, and are more attacks coming? And so if you determine that it's this guy and they didn't have him in custody yet, I would very much want the government to be able to see every single person that he has communicated with via email or via text or on Twitter or with his cell phone or texted. I'd like to know everyone they've communicated with, maybe 3 or 4 levels out. With these radicalized guys, these self-radicalized that are just out of nowhere. I want to know. I want the government to be able to swoop in and gather everything they could possibly gather to try to find other people in their network. Pam?
No, I agree with you. But if they're just going to start using facial recognition software and start identifying every single person in the crowd, and then open a blanket wiretap to just wiretap every single person who is there, I might have a problem with that.
A tow company can do that. A tow company. I know a girl
subpoena the records of everyone that was there. I apologize. That was kind of a different topic, but yeah, I think I have a problem with that.
It was private, but the private
company. What?
The private sector is vastly more likely to spy on you than the government. In fact, the reason that they caught Sonarev, or whatever the hell his name is, the guy is going to fry now, or be however they kill him now, if they can figure out whatever cocktail they need or however that works. It was through, I think, private surveillance, video surveillance. And I have a friend who her brother owns a tow company, and for extra money, she will drive around Walmart and Target parking lots with some scanner that in her car, and it just immediately scans every license plate in the parking lot and pops up a hit if there's a tow order against the car because they haven't paid their car loan. And then she tells her brother, and the brother comes out and tows the car, and then she gets a cut of the action. And I've seen right here in Warren County, I've seen the little scanners on the back of some of the sheriff's deputies' vehicles, that as they're driving, it scans every car instantaneously, and if it's a stolen vehicle or the person's wanted or anything like that, then it, DDDD or whatever it does. And there's all kinds of surveillance going on. My concern isn't so much that the government is surveilling. My concern is that if private hackers would get the information and embarrass people and leak private conversations or business negotiations or what have you, just things that you wouldn't want in the public domain. not something illegal or nefarious. But anyway, that's my 2 cents. Okay, so next is and Jeff Stoner says there is a difference between having a warrant and eavesdropping without it. A warrant is due process, and I'm not arguing that. It's the warrantless wiretaps that they're doing. So there's that is a topic du jour for sure. And Sai says yes, Chinatown, which makes Pam right. All right, next is sources tell the Wall Street Journal you'll soon see a Buy It Now button for products in Google search results on mobile. So if you're presumably initially on mobile, not on desktop, but maybe that'll change, and it's only going to be a small percentage of folks. This is clearly, everyone's trying to, they're seeing what the other company's doing, and if they're making money at it, everyone's looking for new revenue streams. Google makes most of their money on desktop Google search results and their ad network in general. And now a lot of results, or a lot of traffic is on mobile, and ads don't work as well on mobile. They're less likely to be clicked. They're more of a nuisance, and you can't put as many on a phone as you can put on any site that advertises on AM radio. So this isn't at all surprising. Apparently, like, let's say you're searching for, I need some leather shoes made by whoever, and in the search results there may be, among the ads that will pop up, it might say, here's one from Macy's, which I think is an early participant, and they're $39.99. Click here to buy it now. Then it would take you to a page where you can select the size and pay, etc. I don't think this is a big, and they said, oh, this is going to be a big bunch of spam in search results. But I think this is just converting some existing ads to make them more convenient. I'm not at all surprised or outraged by this. What do you think, Sheila?
It's just all a money making scheme.
Nothing's
Yeah.
wrong with that, though.
No, there's nothing. And a lot of people are using mobile every day. They're not always sitting at the desktop. So it makes it kind of convenient if you want to buy something. It's there. That's my thought. I won't use it, but then again, I might, depending on if it's something that I like.
Do you use a lot? Do you use Amazon?
I do.
You're in Utah, so do you have stores there and stuff? I mean, you can to
Yeah.
get everything flown in. I'm just kidding.
Well, yeah. Well, if I want something, I just run to the local Walmart or Costco.
Pam, can you
I
buy
don't-
water on Amazon?
Yes, you can.
I have
Shipping.
no idea. You could probably buy that weird multi-level marketing high pH water on Amazon. You can buy just about anything on Amazon. You'd be
Mhm.
surprised.
Yeah.
My test for Amazon for multi-level marketing, is it a scam or is it an actual business? And something like Tupperware,
Don't get me started.
But
on
like
multi-level
Tupperware, where
marketing.
someone's actually, or Mary Kay, where someone actually is out there selling a product, it seems less of a scam than something like Amway, where lots of people have approached me to join Amway and become a sales rep. Nobody's ever attempted to sell me an Amway product that I'm aware of.
Now it's not. Now it's not Amway. It's called Melaleuca.
Well, they keep changing their name. That's another sign. If every
Yeah.
few years the name changes, like when Blackwater, the contractors in Iraq changed their name, it was not.
Yeah.
So, Pam, are you all up in arms about the Buy It Now button? I don't
No.
think this is at all surprising or significantly
It's
noteworthy.
like we don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to say that I'm not an impulsive consumer, but that's not exactly true. Sometimes I'll see something to go, ooh,
Uh-huh.
and I gotta have, especially at Costco,
Mhm. The chocolate.
I have to say that I'm much less likely to compulsively buy online. In fact, I have two things in my what do you call it, shopping cart right now with Amazon. And I'm like debating, do I really, so, and they're not even that expensive. I think that the sum total of those two things is like $40. And I'm still, hemming and hawing about it. But I see $49.95 doohickey at Costco. My husband doesn't even want me to go with him to Costco because he can't get out of there for under $300. Because I'm like, oh, this.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I always go, like, if the Super Bowl's coming up or Thanksgiving or any kind of, especially a man event like the Super Bowl, because they have every kind of snack on the samples. They're always really great before a holiday.
So you go eat lunch?
That's the key.
And then me and I'll take the kid, and we're about the same size. And so, like, he'll have a dark jacket and I'll have a light jacket, and we'll swap and switch the sunglasses and go through again. One time I really scored. I was at Sam's Club, and apparently it appears that they had some sort of shift change. And I went through, and right after I went through, they had like a shift change of the sample ladies. And so I got to go again.
These sample ladies, they don't care if you come back 2 or 3
times. Exactly. They don't.
One time it was torture because
he's all going into Costco in 3 outfits and 2 hats. And
it's more fun. It's like when before you're 21, it's more fun to sneak, and then you turn 21, it's kind of a letdown because you don't have to sneak a beer, right?
Yep.
Sheila has no clue what we're talking about.
Oh no.
There's like 3 bars in the state of Utah. And two of them involve lawyers.
There's a few.
But on the one click, I'm reminded, and I apologize in advance for this very politically incorrect joke, but one of my favorite Onion stories, which is very offensive, but it's hilarious, is area Parkinson's sufferer bankrupted by Amazon one click.
Yeah.
So anyway.
She got it. I'm just like, don't explain it.
Lightning is going to strike Pam and me down.
Oh, Lord.
I apologize to the late, great Janet Reno and the short guy's name escapes me. Okay. Google blocks Chrome extensions. Michael J. Fox. Google blocks Chrome extensions unless they are in the Chrome store. This is a security thing. And again, they're making the walled garden argument, but I think they're just trying to. People want one of the big things about arguments I've heard about Apple. My mom just said she's thinking about getting an Apple computer. She got a Chromebook, and she said it's this cloud thing, and she bought a printer, and she said the printer sometimes days later will print the job that she had tried to print on Tuesday.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And it was frustrated. She wasn't sure if there was any way to like call anybody to figure out what the hell's going on. And she's returning the whole thing to Amazon. The Chromebook and the little stand and the accessories and the printer, and she's just going to give it back. And she said she's thinking about getting a Mac. And so one of the things about Android versus iOS is the amount of malware, although apparently both have it, but I guess it's to a lesser degree on the Apple platform, but I don't know, and I guess this is a moving target. But, and I'll check comments in a sec, but
Wait. So you're okay. Your mom's having problems with her printer.
Because it's
and
cloud.
she wasn't
She's using
thrilled.
The cloud-based.
I think she thought that the Chromebook was going to be like a I don't want to quote the pawn guys from the ad, but like a real computer where you could like run all the software things you're accustomed to.
Yep.
And I don't think she probably gave it enough of a chance to figure out that you can do a lot of stuff in the cloud. But I don't think that, just like a mobile app is not normally as full featured as its desktop component, a Chrome or any cloud app is not normally as fully featured as the desktop component would be. And what you're getting is not having to store stuff locally, so it's automatically backed up. You're getting the ability to access it from different devices if you're traveling or what have you. Maybe you could collaborate with others. There are advantages, but there are also disadvantages.
No, I agree, but the issue that you talked about really has nothing to do with malware.
No, the point I was making, and Pam is filling in for Alan, pointing out when I'm not making any sense. I appreciate that. But Google is trying to do whatever they can do to get rid of malware and any kind of malicious stuff.
No, and I agree with this move by Google.
So
I do.
I was pointing out some of the.
Okay.
Then I was getting into how their main competitor, one of their main competitors, is Apple, which has a reputation of having less of the bad stuff.
Yes, got it.
And so this made me think of my mom's experience, short-lived as it may be, with a Chromebook.
I got it.
So
you
that- you had
were
to
you
connect
were
those
having
dots.
shiny object syndrome and
Yeah, ADD moment.
little
Yeah.
non sequiturs flying around. That's okay.
I'm an advertiser. We're sponsored by Ritalin. I'm the don't be that guy. First
Right.
part of the
No,
Ritalin commercial.
but I totally understand, and the truth is, I'm not completely sold on the cloud either. And I really don't have anything other than family pictures that I would back up in 12 different places anyway. I don't have anything really worthy of stealing or something that would devastate me if it went missing. But I'm not 100% sold on cloud only. So I understand your mom's concern, but as far as this particular move by Google, I agree with it. I think that one of the reasons why we put up with that RAM hog is because there's a bit of security in there. So if that's going to go away, or if it just becomes another RAM hog for no reason, I'd like then maybe I'd have a problem. But I think it's people don't like restrictions. Oh, no rules, and you have a bug on your right shoulder, Dan.
Aha.
It's a stink bug.
I do have a stink bug. Where is it? There it is.
Yeah.
Perhaps I could use my 357 Magnum.
Probably not a good idea.
Maybe a shotgun would be less likely to miss.
At least it's not my dog that's just over here.
Am I going to get PETA on me if I just... All right, so anyway, Chrome's doing that. You won't have be able to say, I don't know what the advantage. If Alan were here, he could tell us if there are circumstances where you want to be able to, maybe if you're doing a development secret app and you want to, hey, Pam, test this real quick or whatever, and you don't want it to go through the process of waiting for approval or that sort of thing. But maybe there's a workaround. I imagine there is, but I'm not an expert, obviously. So there we go. And let me see if there's any. All right, next is more sites. Okay, so more sites have been negatively affected by Google's push to downgrade non-mobile friendly sites on mobile search. So if you're searching for whatever on your phone or some other mobile device, and Google identifies various results it can provide you. If a site is not mobile friendly, they're downgrading that in the search results on the mobile device. If you look at it on desktop, they are not. So initially, our thinking was if the text is hard to read on a mobile device, or that sort of the formatting is messed up. I appreciate their effort to do that, and they announced it in advance. They gave a target date, and they gave a free tool where you could see if Google considers your site mobile friendly. But then they tweaked it, and one of these companies whose name escapes me said that they saw a dramatic drop a few days into it. And apparently, if you have a site that is like auto-loading video, might consume a lot of data. Huff, Huff?
No, pages.
Hub pages.
Uh-huh.
I see we've now gone to the left arm, and now I have a target. And now it's on my desk. Okay, so Hub pages, and they discovered that.
Wait. This isn't secretive. Why is CNBC reporting it like this? They announced this a month in advance, at least a month in advance.
And provided a tool for you to determine if your site was mobile friendly. But what they said was that they're tweaking it. And Google, it is secretive to a certain degree. They're not exactly saying what the specific criteria is, because they know that spammers will try to game the system and be just under the plateau so they can get their spam through. But you've seen these sites that are so loaded with crap, and they still try to load all the crap when you're on mobile, and you get so frustrated you just want to abandon the site, and that gives you a negative experience. So another story is Bing is going to do the same thing. So, which is just logical as more and more people are using mobile devices. If you have a client, a user who is upset at the result, then you're wasting their time, and you're opening yourself up to having a competitor get the search business from that user if they do a better job. So, but apparently they're expanding the criteria of what is and isn't a mobile friendly site to include things like maybe an auto load video or a nested video, something that could consume data, or something that could just be irritating or cause a slowdown. And I don't have a problem with any of that. Although it makes it very difficult to be a website operator with a changing target that you don't really know what you're shooting at. But in general, if you use a nice site that is adaptive, you probably won't have a problem, and but then you want to make money. So you try these different ways to put ads on there to monetize it, and usually fail, and don't make any money and close or get bought. We're still in a bubble. But that's another topic. So there you go. Verizon buys AOL. Wish Matthew were on tonight. This isn't surprising, and to put this in perspective, Verizon sued the FCC when they initially tried to implement some net neutrality restrictions. Net neutrality being where you treat everything the same. There's no slowing down of a site that might be a competitor. Like you can't, a telco that sells DSL internet can't slow down Vonage service. They can't charge Netflix to get a faster pipe. They have to treat everyone the same. And I support this because if I came up with a new technology, a new site, a new thing, I wouldn't want to have to bribe every ISP in the country to get my products or my service to the users. So Verizon sued, and then there were stories that some of the other carriers were upset because they won such a big victory that the FCC then said, okay, we're just going to reclassify broadband as, I think it's called, a common carrier, where we will be allowed to do this. And so they lawyered up and they got everything together, and that's what they did. And I think that they're going to get away with it unless Congress wants to pass a law, which the president will veto. And I doubt they'll get a veto-proof majority on this. And there will be unintended consequences, I imagine. But if they had played ball earlier with some pro-consumer things, then this wouldn't have been happening. So Verizon, not merely content with you're going to get your $100 to be a pipe, a dumb pipe, that's it. $100 a month per user. Now they're going to expand their portfolio and get into other things. So this is in no way surprising to me. And I say bring it on. Let's the more competition, the merrier. From my perspective as a consumer, and I love seeing companies with lots of money try to figure out how to make money with content, because that's the business I'm in, and I'm terrified of the fact that you can't make any money on mobile or on the web or on the internet, period, with content, especially if you're a small outfit. As I've said before, if you're Drudge Report, you're like two guys in a basement in your bathrobe posting links and you have 1 billion viewers, you can make money because you have very low overhead and a lot of traffic. But if you're Huffington Post, they've been hemorrhaging cash since day one, probably. So, thus the sale. What do you think about Verizon buying AOL, Pam?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. I am just now reading what AOL actually has. Advertising.
I think they have 20 million dial-up still. They own Huffington Post.
They own Huffington Post, Movie Phone, and Gadget, TechCrunch, Cambio.
They own TechCrunch.
Advertising.com, AdTech, 5 Minute Media, Telus, Now, just local, MapQuest.
Did they buy Ask.com? That was owned, that was owned by the New York Times. The Ask toolbar and all that spam garbage that was installed without all of a sudden your search engine would change, or your default startup page on your browser would be Ask.com. That was a New York Times property for years. So,
I don't know.
Let me talk about what Shane's.
I don't think this is a good move. Only because it looks like AOL is its own kind of walled garden.
But they also have an ad network, and there's some speculation that that's what they're buying. That what they really wanted was the technology for their advertising network platform.
Yeah.
Their version of Google AdWords, if you will. Because they have their own mobile ad platform that is, you can buy an ad and it can appear on some or all or some segment of all the AOL properties like TechCrunch and HuffPost, HuffPo Live, you name it. So
currently, Ask.com is owned by Interactive Corp under the NASDAQ symbol IACI.
That's Barry Diller, isn't it? We're off in the weeds. That's not a big... But anyway. So do you think Verizon... I say bring it on. They have a lot of money.
The chairman and senior executive is Barry Diller.
Okay.
AOL has been sold, 2 or 3 times already? Bought and sold?
Well, they became part of Time Warner.
Yeah.
Or they bought, I don't know who bought who, but it was AOL Time Warner. And then I guess Steve Case was chairman prior to that. And then I think he was with the disastrous result for some period of time. And then I guess they were spun off. I don't know. And the one guy whose biggest claim to fame is firing that worker in the audio recording that was released is actually a former Googler. They said he was an amazing salesperson. He could really get the big deals. He was outshining everybody, and he's the CEO. But I loved when the Washington Post was purchased by Jeff Bezos, because that is a wonderful brand. It's our local Metro newspaper. And I figured, you know what? If anybody could fix the Post and figure out how to make money, it's him. And for Jeff Bezos, $250 million is nothing. That's lunch.
So it says by the end of 2014, AOL controlled 0.74% of the global advertising market, well behind industry leader Google's 31%. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this is a good idea.
Well, I know that all of the companies that the pipes want content. Netflix and Netflix was a DVD company, and I heard and now Amazon with Prime they're buying content, and then I heard but in both cases they were reliant on their ability to obtain content from third parties. Now you're seeing Netflix get into original content. You're seeing Amazon do the same, and they're a few years behind Netflix. In their
Yeah, it
maturity
makes
on
more
that.
it makes more sense for Verizon to buy Time Warner than this, or
Not if the future is mobile and internet
mhm.
versus the legacy movies and cable television and TV stations. And it might just be that they got them cheap.
$50 a share. That's not really cheap. I just don't see the content. I don't. I'm on the AOL Wikipedia page. I don't see the content that Verizon would want. There's no library of stuff that's going to be useful to them. I mean, HuffPo is okay, but there's no.
I don't think it's profitable.
They don't have
If it is,
anything.
it's not very profitable.
Exactly. They don't.
It's
They don't
expensive.
seem to have anything. They don't have the secret Beatles collection, or there's nothing. There's just nothing that I just don't know how they can bounce revenue with AOL.
And it's not like when Comcast bought NBC, which is loses money, but there's a lot of prestige in owning NBC. NBC was the original broadcasting company. I think that they were forced to break up, and that's where ABC came from. And to own the NBC, well, obviously it's fallen from grace a little bit, but to own, like, you own NBC News, that's a big deal. I think that's, but I don't see where owning HuffPost or TechCrunch is any, legacy brand.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
We'll see what they do with it.
See.
But everyone
We'll
wants
see.
content. Everybody wants content. And that's what Shane
This is
Smith,
it.
the founder of Vice, said. He said, we are a content factory. We produce our own content. We're geared toward millennials. Every few years we have a Maoist purge of all the people and hire all new young people. And they want people who the people making the content, shooting the content, editing it to be millennials, young people. And that's who their audience is. And they said instead of trying to chase mobile clicks because the mobile ad experience sucks, that they sell the content. They do YouTube, and they said that they had the #1 channel, most subscribers, most engagement, the longest people watch, everything. They blew YouTube metrics away. They also have deals with companies like Vodafone, the mobile operator, that people want exclusive content. And so maybe that's what they're up to. I don't know. We'll see. It could be a big mistake, but it wouldn't be as big a mistake as AOL Time Warner was. So, all right. Next is this is really interesting, and I'm gonna step away for a moment while Pam talks about this. Facebook is encouraging, and Sheila, Facebook is encouraging publishers to put content directly on Facebook so it will load faster. Is this logical, or yet another move toward walled gardens competing against the open web? And I think that they said that if you're on Facebook, your stuff is 10 times. If you post a story on Facebook, actually post the video with a Facebook player or a photo on Facebook, and you put the text into Facebook, the whole article, it loads 10 times faster than if you post a link to an article on abcnews.com or whatever it is. And so they're trying to get publishers, especially as more and more traffic is mobile, and a lot of it's overseas, which or in areas which may have a slower connection. And publishers immediately are freaking out, like, oh my God, we're at their mercy. And there's some fear of that. There's a guy, people have lost their entire library of content if they got in trouble with Google, or other companies. So if that's the deal, it's with a few testers, they're allowed to keep, if they sell an ad, they're allowed to sell an ad on the content, and they keep all the money, or they can use Facebook's ad network, and they get 70% of the revenue from it to coax them in. And it's a test with a limited number of partners. So I am very interested. I don't want to be an IT guy. I'm a content creator. I don't print my paper myself. I hire a printer, and I pay him a fortune. I'm getting ready to spend about 10 grand at the end of this month for paper and ink. And I don't know how to operate a $5 million printing press. I don't have 12 guys in blue outfits doing that. So I pay someone to do that. And I just want to create good content, but there's no current way to make money on it online. So if I have no problem, I don't see this as any different than uploading a YouTube video and monetizing it. And I've stopped monetizing all my YouTube videos because that's such a pain in the ass. But Pam, what do you think about this?
I don't. So far, I was reading the article. I don't have a problem with it. They have guidelines. They don't allow autoplay, which is good. If they sell the ads for you, the company still gets to keep 70% of the resulting revenue. So I'm guessing that, like Google, Facebook has a business side, where people actually pay. What I don't want to see is any way that companies like, which is funny, the Wall Street Journal, require you to pay for either the articles or for access. I don't want them to be able to monetize straight from their Facebook page like that. But other than that, I don't, again, like I said, I'm still reading the article. I don't see a problem with this compared to any other way that these companies are posting stuff on Facebook. What I'd be curious to know is, can the people who access these instant articles then share them outside of Facebook? Currently, I can go to BuzzFeed and go to any article or whatever, and then I can share that article on Google Plus, or I can share that on my blog, or I can, send it in a text, the URL. Posting it straight to Facebook, I don't know how that would work. I'm not technical enough to guess. So maybe if Sai's still listening, he'll chime in and guess how that would work, if he even knows what the hell we're talking about. And Dan's still gone.
I'm coming back.
So I don't know how much more I can talk about that.
That was a great stretch. You'd be a great weather person. When they go like this. This means hurry up, and this means, or whatever they do, like stretch it out, like keep talking.
Yeah.
So I was just doing this off camera. So anyway, yeah. So I guess these you could share, although frankly most people, maybe they're emailing it to dad or something, but most of them just share it on Facebook or comment. It'll be interesting to see, but everyone wants exclusive stuff. I mean, nobody wants to just be, in the same way we saw with Android phones, where they were tempted to put bloatware and crazy, stylus and special stylus apps to make themselves stand out from other Android phones, and they had less of an incentive to produce the pure Android experience. There was really no incentive to do that, because then it's just a commodity. So Samsung
Right.
had TouchWiz and so on. Same thing here. I mean, you can get internet from various companies. If there were competition in broadband, if you had 6 or 7 companies, I'd be very curious to get George Cozy's perspective on this, because I've said this before. One company wired his house with fiber, his whole apartment building, And then he has a choice of like a dozen different companies for things like phone service and probably security camera service and internet broadband. I'm very curious, beyond price, how these and speed, what these companies are offering. Like, might one include Netflix as part of the deal? That sort of thing. And content is a distinguishing factor. And exclusive content. We've seen people that just for House of Cards or just for Orange is the New Black, and the latter is actually more popular. That's their number one show, Orange, not the House of Cards.
Right.
And that there are people who will subscribe to Netflix just for that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I got the HBO Go app, so I have Netflix, Amazon Prime, and of course Prime is for the shopping, and that's just the bonus, the video stuff. And I've got this Amazon Music thing that's fantastic. Have you tried that, Pam? It's a free, and also that you can back up all your photos for free.
Briefly.
You
I
can,
did.
yeah. It's great. When I'm in the park, it's a free like Spotify type thing with no advertising, and it comes with Prime. You just download Prime Music, and they've got a new photo backup that's free with Prime. You can back up all of your photos from your mobile device or your desktop or anything, completely free into the Amazon Web Services cloud. It's all included with Prime. I mean, that's the incredible value. And I got the HBO Go. I forget how much that is. And I've even thought about the CBS app, but I'm against that because they still show ads, and they don't have entire. They'll skip episodes, like the show. What was it? Not Lost, but Heroes. Right? I kind of got into that, and then I stopped watching for like a year, and I want to get back into it. Or if you're trying to get back into Lost, there's no getting back into Lost. You got to go back to where you left off and watch them sequentially, or you're just so lost, if you'll pardon the pun.
You're lost.
But then if they say only the last 5 episodes are available, that's why I stopped watching Heroes. They're going to do a reboot of that show or something. We got a couple comments here. Okay, Sai says, it is faster because it's not proxied through Facebook. Content creators would be giving their content to Facebook, and I don't know many content creators that would be willing to do that. BuzzFeed's doing it, and they're selling their own ads. They keep all the money. It's an experiment. I don't think they're doing all of their stuff. I'm sure anybody says, if Zuckerberg calls you or his minions and they say, hey, we want to try this, they're not saying take your entire content library and stick it on there, but they could put some articles on there and see what it does and compare. Everyone's chasing revenue. I think from The Verge, Nilay Patel today said, he is in a constant battle to compare the revenue from their own proprietary platform, compare that with YouTube, compare that with now what this will do, and to see. So I think Zuckerberg wants stuff on Facebook that's maybe is hard, as Pam said, to share outside of Facebook. So you'll say, hey, listen, just go to my stream. I just shared it recently. Have you ever done that? You ever said that to someone? I've said that for Google+. I said, just go to my thing. It's the latest thing I shared, which gets them to get back on that platform.
Yeah.
And everyone's learning as they go. I don't think this is some big conspiracy, but if it gets more people to stay on Facebook and not leave, then I'm sure Zuckerberg's not going to shed any tears over that. And, Sheila, weigh in if you want. I see her muted. So, did you have any thoughts on Facebook? Did you see a lot of news articles? I mean, do you prefer to see if someone links to a site like Buzz? Let's say there's a funny video or interesting video or news or whatever, and would you prefer that be a Facebook video, an actual video hosted on Facebook that auto plays, or
No.
that they link to a BuzzFeed? And you got to decide to click over there to the Onion or BuzzFeed or whatever it is, Mashable, and watch the video on their site and maybe have an ad and maybe wait for the page to load, especially if you're on mobile.
I don't know, but I don't like the autoplay, so I have that turned off.
Well, it doesn't do audio,
And-
right?
No, but I turned that feature off on Facebook anyway because I don't like autoplay on my phone.
Oh, okay.
Especially. But yeah. Yeah. But
What about on desktop?
desktop, it's the autoplay's turned off too.
What's the
But
reason for that on desktop? Just curious.
because I don't need the sound to auto start playing, especially if
It
I'm
doesn't.
in the middle of listening to something else.
The
But
sound
so,
doesn't
yeah.
autoplay. It does, I think, if you
Okay.
engage with it. Just the
Yeah.
video does. And I have found that I got sucked into watching some stupid Facebook video because it autoplayed, just the video, that I wouldn't
Yeah.
have otherwise tried. I think it does
Right.
work.
Well, one thing that really, really, really bothers me to the core is when these stinking pages will download a YouTube video and submit it as if it's their own with no attribution to the original YouTuber.
Oh yeah.
So I just like, no, I don't like you. I'm gonna hide all that content. I don't want to see your stuff. But I would rather click on the link and go to the web page and give them the count instead of letting Facebook have all the glory.
So
It's like a blog post. You want to click on the blog post and read that content to give the blog the hits instead of Facebook getting the hits. No,
yeah,
that's
well,
nice.
you see that you'll see if it's like the one with the kid who just left the dentist office and he's stoned out of his mind, and I'm sure all these people downloaded that, and you'll see sometimes it's hard to find the original video, and I'm trying
It
to find the
is.
original video, but you'll see it from viral videos and top videos
It
and
is.
Videos US, all these
Yeah.
user accounts, and that it's not their thing. But they can do it.
Right.
They'll create an account. They'll upload it. They'll monetize it for some period of time.
They
Then it'll
do.
get paying, but they'll still
That's-
make money, or they wouldn't do it.
That's really difficult, and that I don't like that either. That's dirty.
But
cool.
I agree with you.
But-
As a content creator, I like to reward the originator of the content.
Yeah.
But it's difficult, and there's only so much time I'm going to spend. And that's why people get into. You're not attributing whatever, and you're not being fair to the original, and sometimes it's difficult. Like some person will post something, then it gets picked up by the Wall Street Journal, or the a main some TV news station will mention it, and they might mention that it came from a blogger with whatever, but there's no link, right? And then Mashable picks it up, and they used to be real bad. I don't know if they still are about linking back to the original source. And then BuzzFeed, and then it's like, I don't know who actually originally did this, because then the fourth or fifth person might say, a blogger and BuzzFeed and the Washington Post all, said reports are this, when really it was the blogger, and I can't even find the blogger now. And then
Yeah.
other people have added value. Maybe they have an interview advancing the story. So do I say this is via a tweet from Brian Stelter to a New York Times story that referenced
Oh,
something from
yeah,
the
that'd
information, and then
that would
it's
take
from this blog
forever.
guy.
yeah, that would take forever.
I don't know how to do all that. So
Yeah.
anyway, all right. So it'll be interesting to see how this, but it's good for the consumer,
Yeah.
I think, because if the story loads faster,
It
that's all they
is.
care about.
That's true.
I can
mean, if
consume
it's-
more funny cat videos in
That's true.
my short lunch break now, if you're the Facebook person. And by
Yeah.
the way, Google tweeted one of the funniest cat videos I've ever seen. Or Google Plus, they actually started using their Twitter account like
Yeah.
just a couple weeks ago. And after like 4 years, they got it in 2011, like June or July of 2011, they got a Google Plus Twitter account. And now they're actually using it in 2015. So kudos to Google Plus for finally getting social. Just kidding.
Reaching across all the board.
Yeah,
Now, do they have an Instagram account now?
I don't know.
Hmm.
Good question. So, and but they tweeted this hilarious cat thing. I forget what the context was, but everyone should have a fun social media team. They might get you in trouble every once in a while, but it's worth it. Okay, so next is This was interesting, kind of related, but not really. EU carriers. This is from. This was in the Financial Times. EU carriers plan to block ads and demand money from Google. So I'm reading from Ars Technica here. I'll show you guys here. Multiple mobile operators in Europe plan to block advertising on their networks, with one of them planning to target Google's ad network to force the company to give up a cut of its ad revenue, according to a report in the Financial Times. An executive at a European carrier confirmed that it and several of its peers are planning to start blocking adverts this year, the newspaper reported. The executive said that the carrier will initially launch an advertising-free service for customers on an opt-in basis, but it's also considering a more radical idea that it calls the bomb, which would apply across the entire network of millions of subscribers at once. The idea is to specifically target Google, blocking advertising on its websites in an attempt to force the company into giving up a cut of its revenue. Blocking ads for just an hour or a day might be enough to bring Google to the negotiating table, the executive told the newspaper. While such a scheme might violate net neutrality rules in the U.S., Europe does not have anything comprehensive on the books, despite years of discussion. So basically, it seems like they're just saying it's an ad blocker. They're going to have a de facto ad blocker on their pipe. And we're talking mobile operators. And they're trying to get Google to pay. Again, this is just, Google shouldn't have to bribe every single ISP, internet service provider, in the world to allow consumers to access their content. It's just not fair. It's a pain in the ass, and these costs will be passed along. And I'm generally not in favor of burdensome government overregulation, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't think Netflix should have to bribe Comcast to get the throughput that I am paying Comcast for already. And if Comcast wants to charge me a little more, but they're hugely they make a huge margin on internet broadband, much more so than cable. So this is a kind of a weeds thing that the Joe Sixpack probably wouldn't care about. Facebook is a ghost town. Oh man.
Here it is.
So, all right. Next is Pam can talk about that when she gets back. She's watering her plants. Google, the driverless cars are hitting the roads of Silicon Valley. Apparently they're safer, but they have had 11 accidents, but none were the fault of the vehicle or the technology. But they were the fault of the operator or other vehicles. I think several were rear-ended, probably from someone like, look at that thing, and they didn't brake or whatever it was. And I think in the end, if you have a really good, well-done driverless car, that it would be much safer. Maybe we should look at driverless trains to be topical. But don't tell the Amtrak union that I said that. But what do you? I don't fear this, but I don't know if I'd be an early adopter until the technology gets a little more mature. But even now, they have to have brakes and a steering wheel and stuff like that for this test they've been permitted for. Sheila, are you scared of driverless cars, or do you think would you hop in one of these things for your daily commute?
No. I mean, I want to be able to control where I'm going. It's like, what if this driverless car fell asleep at the wheel?
I think it would just stop, right?
You would hope. You would hope.
I think it's the cost savings. There's actually some, not driverless because there's a driver. I don't know how you say it's driverless when there's a person who has a steering wheel and a brake, but sort of a mixture of autopilot and operator, the ability of an operator to intervene in the event of an emergency, and they can only go 25 miles an hour and that sort of thing. And it's in the technologically friendly Silicon Valley area, like Mountain View and such. But There's some 18 wheelers that have some autopilot capabilities and that are operating. I think there's 2 or 3 of them that are doing test runs. And there's other similar things like the ability to park by itself or the ability to stop rather than have an accident. And then Vic
Like-
Indotra famously starred for free, our former guest and the former head of Google Plus, was featured in a Mercedes-Benz commercial before he got his Tesla. He said he got distracted and he almost rear-ended somebody, and instead the car just stopped. So we have similar stuff like this, and that's a case where the autopilot light features actually saved injury or damage or perhaps a life in Vic's Mercedes. Pam,
Yeah.
you're in California where this is happening. Do you think do you have a mix of trepidation and cautious optimism on the driverless cars?
Yes, and I think that adoption, you know what I mean? Look, my opinion, it's only my opinion, people are what make driving dangerous. If all the cars on the road are driverless, then I think that the roads will be infinitely safer. But the problem is that with these, there's a consumer watchdog agency that's up in arms because there have been 11 accidents with these cars. Look, the 11 accidents were because some asshole person in another car did something so unpredictable that the computer was like, what the fuck, right? So they were minor fender benders, and yeah.
I don't think
know.
it was just to correct you briefly, I don't think it was the computer at all. I think several of them were rear-ended by somebody. One was a person made an error. I don't think the actual driverless car per se. I'm being attacked by something. I don't know where it is. The driverless car per se was to blame in any of the 11 accidents.
No, it wasn't. And the people are what make it unpredictable. Driving is a dangerous sport. My commute's 13 miles, and in the 10 years that I've lived in this county, it's a little more than 10 years now, but whatever, 13 years that I've lived in this county, I've been rear-ended twice. Well, one of the times it was actually I was rammed, but the second time I was rear-ended. I mean, people do stupid stuff. They turn on their blinker to change lanes as they're changing lanes. That's unpredictable behavior.
I did it today. I was pulling into the school. The kid went with his little friend for the night.
His little friend.
So he forgot his toothbrush and his toothpaste. And so I texted him and I said, "Do you want me to drop it off at the school? And before you go on the other bus to go home, with the kid, and then, I'll pick him up tomorrow." So I said, "Is there anything else you need?" And he's like, "Yeah, can you get my energy drink I left in the fridge?" Right? So I packed up his energy drink and his little toothbrush. So I go to school, and there's 2 lanes, and I was like looking around to make sure I didn't hit a kid. And I was driving slowly. I wasn't in any kind of hurry. And I turned left into a parking spot and crossed over a second forward lane. And then when I parked, this person honked at me, and I had not hit my blinker. And so she was like, giving me the evil eye. And I was like, I didn't respond because I was trying to figure out what I had done wrong. Then it dawned on me I didn't use my blinker. That was human error. Right? So I might have been rear-ended, and it would have been my fault. I mean, it would have been at like 10 miles an hour, but still, yeah, people make mistakes. And there are cases like the lawsuits about bad technology, which causes accidents, that sort of thing. But but they're very minor compared to the number of accidents from drunks or people tired or kids texting or what have you.
They do this, they're still on their phone and they're talking and driving or doing this.
I was taking the kids somewhere and we saw this woman do an
I've seen
entire
news
makeup
people-
regimen. She applied
Yes,
the mascara, the
I've seen
lipstick,
people
the
reading
powder.
reports on their steering wheel. They have the report stapled and they're reading while they're driving. I've seen shaving, face shaving.
Mascara.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, some of the stuff that you see while people are driving, it's incredible. So yeah, let those chuckleheads do that and let the car get you to where you need to go. I'm okay with that. But the problem is that if the adoption's only 1 or 2%, I'm still in danger, and I'm in a car that I can't control, so I can't do a J turn or what have you. If I need to do some serious evasive action, I might not get the chance to do that.
It'll be interesting to see what happens if two of them do hit. Who do you sue? Let's say a Mitsubishi and a Google car hit each other, right?
Well, in California, we basically have some rules around like where the fault lies depending on the investigation. And in California, if you rear end somebody, you're at fault. No matter
that's
what.
in most
You
states.
better be back far enough
Right.
that if someone in front of you does something stupid, that's why I can't stand driving to work, because people will cut. If you leave any space between you and the car in front of you, you basically have to tailgate. You have to actually move closer than the size of the car next to you, because they'll just zoop right in there and you're like, what? And
Yeah.
then slam on the brakes. And
Yeah.
you're like, ah!
It's not just California, Pam.
Okay, so Sai says,
says, oh,
yeah,
I mean,
go ahead. You want to read it?
Go ahead. What did Sai say?
if all the cars on the I-5 and the 805 are driverless, I save a minimum of 20 minutes every day. My commute is 12 miles, mostly highway, 25 minutes to 1 hour, depending on the time of day and how screwed up things are. Exactly. My commute's 13 miles, and it's anywhere from 25 minutes to
an hour.
an hour. Yep.
Yep.
My commute
And
is
it's because people are doing something stupid.
my commute's
You know, it's
30
like-
Really,
feet.
really is.
I was gonna comment on your little theory, like if somebody rear-ended. Okay, now like if somebody did a left-hand turn in front of you, sure that person would be at fault for turning in front of you, but then you would also get cited for not being aware of your surroundings.
Michael Daniels
Yeah,
comments, Pam was rear-ended. Uh-oh. I'm trying to get a read
Yeah,
on
that doesn't happen voluntarily, I'm telling you.
that's what they all say.
Okay.
It seemed like a good idea at the
Sorry,
time. All right. And it's never happened in Utah. Okay, so
It might still be illegal in Utah.
let's talk about this freaking train. We've all learned about forward train control
Hi,
or
Alan.
positive control. Alan's getting his ducks in a row.
Positive train control. Good grief, Dan.
What?
I know it's only been breaking news on CNN. So,
No. Positive train control has been in the news for at least 6 months now, and longer than that. Just because you're, don't know anything about news. Oh, wait a minute.
that was a dig. Yeah. So, okay. So, it does more than just. Obviously, it would have, according to the NTSB guy, it would absolutely have prevented this accident. The train would not have been allowed to speed. It's extraordinarily expensive, billions of dollars to implement, and I think, close to $1 billion a year to maintain. It doesn't just prevent speeding. It prevents things like if a crew is working on a track, a train won't accidentally hit them. Two trains colliding. It prevents a lot of things. It's basically the computerization of everything, and sort of keep it sort of like an air traffic control system, if you will, but automated with computers. Is
more
the best.
elaborate and actually kind of more sophisticated than that. Even I like to think of it more as the old signaling systems that we used to have and that we still have on trains that date back, something like 100 years or so, brought into the 20th century.
And this after the New York accident, which was what, 2 years ago or something.
Which New York accident?
The big one that was I don't know. I think a couple years ago.
Yes.
And it was it was around a curve, and everyone saw this thing, and you're looking at the accident, and you're like, okay, they're going to say what it was, but we don't want to weigh in and speculate and look stupid, but it's a sharp curve, and the freaking train derails right on the curve. The guy was speeding. But then now I've heard like there may have been damage on the windshield. We don't know yet, so who's to the Philly mayor to condemn the driver? We don't know what happened, but people can have heart attacks. They can be tired or have whatever happen, and there shouldn't be all these lives based on this one person being cognizant and healthy and well-intentioned in this day and age, if it's just a question of money, in my opinion. Because you're dealing with this corridor, which is the busiest in the country, has 750,000 people every day. How many flights is that? What's on an average flight? 100 people? I don't know. There's small commuter planes and there's 747s with several hundred people, but 750,000 people a day is a lot of people. That's thousands of flights. So I would venture to say that's equivalent maybe 10,000 airplane rides a day. And this thing was cut at this point, and the trains couldn't get through. And these people, it's not like an airplane where you're stuck at an airport and they put you in a hotel or whatever. Some of these folks, one group took an Uber. They were just sort of walking away and trying to figure out how to get wherever they were going, and then other folks couldn't get to work and stuff. So it's not. I mean, the death toll, of course, is obviously the most. Almost all of it, but there's these other things that it's completely preventable, and it happens again and again and again. I think I did not see the emphasis in the news coverage on the control systems that we're simply choosing not to implement on the previous accidents on a national scale that I have seen with this. So I'm hoping that if some good comes out of bad, that there is an impetus to implement something.
You mean
finally?
You're incorrect, Dan. There actually was. After the Metrolink train derailment in California, and I think a train derailment in New York, they actually mandated that by the end of this year, all
train systems in the U.S. be under
all train
control.
systems in the U.S. will need to be have this positive.
I heard that, but is there any indication that this will be? And a lot of the ones in the corridor are.
Yes. Oh yeah. Here in California, they shut down the coaster last week, and they're installing this.
In the northeast corridor, I think I heard something like 75% of it. The positive control systems are installed.
Yeah.
This particular segment wasn't installed yet. And the Amtrak official is saying that despite the budget cuts that Congress just threw at them, they're still going to have positive control implemented by the end of the year. They will be the first and only ones to do so by the end of the year. Every other train system is behind the times.
I think we're also going to be compliant. I think that the BNSF.
My understanding was
line
that
from Northern California all the way down to Southern California, that corridor from Los Angeles down to San Diego was going to be compliant. So that
could be. My understanding was that all of the freight carriers were not going to be compliant by the end of 2015.
No. So, which is not good, because we just had our third derailment of big oil tankers in the Midwest, I believe.
God. Really?
This year. So, it's not. And I don't know the cause. Maybe positive control was not going. Is it positive control, right? That I'm using the correct term.
Yes.
Maybe positive control would have done nothing for this. Maybe it was track maintenance or whatever. But
I heard there was
I'm
some sort of
guessing
damage to the windshield that may have been related. But so we'll know. I mean,
damage to the windshield. Here's the thing. These trains have speed limits in every segment, every single segment, okay? And their speed is tracked by computer. All right?
And a black box.
My husband can walk into the control center where he works, and he can look at a computer screen, and he can tell where all the trains are, what tracks they're on, and basically how fast they're going. Right? So every single segment has, between Solana Beach and Del Mar, there's this curve, right? And the speed limit is such and such for commuter trains, and it's such and such for the freight trains. And so it's not like the engineer gets to choose how fast they're going. Now they could go slower if there's something on the track, but there's a speed limit. And dirty windshield is not going. Completely obscured windshield is not going to prevent them from going the speed limit. Something else had to be going on here for that train to be going almost double.
over double. It was going, what, 109 and a 50.
So, yeah.
It just, I don't know. And some of the stuff, like they don't want the front-facing cameras in the cockpit or whatever you call it, because the union guys
People
don't like it.
I worked at a liquor store.
Yeah.
I worked at a liquor store where I was on camera my entire shift because they, didn't want us stealing from the cash register. So if I could be on camera for my stupid $5 an hour job, these people, these engineers make buku bucks. I'm telling you. And they can be on camera. They've got lives. They've got lives in their hands, right?
So Alan, regardless of this accident, if it had not happened, you're saying that by the end of the year that this system would have been implemented in this area?
Yes.
It is. I mean, I know it's been mandated, but
Amtrak said they were on schedule to get it implemented by the end of the year, and
Yep.
throughout the entire part of the system that they control.
Yep.
Which is to say, the Northeast Corridor.
we all agree Amtrak's going to take a major ridership hit from passengers.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so, because driving is still more dangerous, and it's still a bigger hassle.
Driving in that area is a serious pain in the ass.
Yeah. I do.
Look at it this way: it's going. The line will be reopened on Monday. I can almost guarantee you, they will be at near full ridership on Monday.
Okay.
If I had to go to DC on Monday, I would take Amtrak, no hesitation whatsoever.
Yeah.
Okay, can I get some quick reaction to stuff from Alan?
I don't care.
That all depends. How many curse words can I use?
Red meat for the viewers. They've waited this long.
I already did the F-bomb at least twice, and I did the S-bomb like 12 times.
And she rehearsed her new
Thank you.
dance routine involving candles. Okay, so Alan, Google confirms that cops can wiretap Hangouts, which makes them seemingly less secure than other forms of communications like FaceTime and iMessage.
I'm not sure why anyone thinks that FaceTime and iMessage don't have the same restrictions on them.
User-to-user encryption versus Google. You're encrypted from your computer to Google, at which point a subpoena could be issued for them to eavesdrop on your Hangout.
Yeah, but notice that Apple has never said that law enforcement agencies can't get access.
I thought they had.
No, they haven't. When asked the question, they said they've dodged the answer.
Okay. Sources tell the Wall Street Journal you'll soon see a Buy It Now button for products in Google's search results on mobile. Is this, oh my God, or is this just another incremental...
Well, it's more incremental, ignorant bullshit from Google, if true.
Google blocks Chrome extensions unless they are in the Chrome store. A, what's your general reaction? B, if you were, say, testing something and you wanted to throw it to me to see how it worked, are you now going to have to go through some bureaucratic process, or is there a workaround for that? What's your general thinking on this?
Well, two things. One, this is only for stuff in the store, so there was always a way that I could distribute extensions to you for testing purposes if you were foolish enough to accept something from me. And two, this is both good and bad. The problem, saying, okay, we're going to make sure that you only go through the store for this stuff. Well, that's kind of bullshit since the store is filled with malware. It's not like they do diddly shit when looking at these extensions. And honestly, this is a serious problem with Chrome extensions, and Chrome extensions are really pretty powerful and dangerously so.
But couldn't if they did identify one that was malware after the fact, they could deactivate it everywhere, whereas they couldn't if it was just stuff, the equivalent of a Chrome APK file that you could just install on your own?
You know how much malware is currently sitting on the Chrome Web Store that's been identified and reported up the wazoo, and they've done diddly shit about it?
There was a story about that where someone went public with some sort of, I forget where the vulnerability was, but something they went to Google with 3 weeks ago and they got no response, and so they went public with it. I wish I knew more. I can't remember.
Don't get me wrong. I think Chrome web extensions are great. I think they're incredibly powerful. I think they're important, but there are serious security problems on them right now, and this is kind of trying to dodge the problem.
Am I using one now? I initiated this Hangout by clicking on was it a desktop app, the little green thing, and I opened the Hangout up. Am I using a Chrome extension for this actual Hangout, or?
I think so, yes. You're using a Chrome app, which is the same thing.
Okay. So there.
But as an example, though, what was it, last week or 2 weeks ago? All of the great news. There's now this Chrome extension that will detect when you've entered in your Gmail password on some other website and warn you not to do that. Think about what that means. That means that there's an extension sitting in your browser that is looking at every damn thing you type in. And if that's not a security issue, I don't know what is.
Yeah, Edward Snowden stuff's got nothing on that. Okay, so next is more sites have been negatively affected by Google's push to downgrade non-mobile friendly sites on mobile search. Sites that have lots of crap loading, also seeing reductions as our
Crappy sites fall in Google's rankings.
As our entire domains that have spammy, bloaty sites and only part of their network. I forget hub something we discussed, but this is just, I think, Google trying to not piss off users by giving them results that will work. If they're doing a search on a mobile device, they want to provide results that they've identified will be a pleasant experience. And if they're in the Chrome browser, I imagine they can...
Crap is as crap does. Next subject.
Verizon buys AOL. Army of losers. Just kidding. That was when they were the dial-up alternative. One of my staff said that.
This is a source of desperation. What I'm most interested to see is exactly which part of AOL are they going to sell off.
Well, here's the question though. Pam looked. I apologize. I need a pop filter or something. Pam identified the percentage of ads that are from AOL. I think she said like 0.7% or something compared to Google's 31%. But I've heard stories that what they're really after is AOL's mobile ad platform or ad platform. and where you can buy an ad and it can appear on Huffington Post, TechCrunch, AOL.com, AOL News. And I think AOL News is actually, or no, it's Yahoo News. I'm sorry. That's very popular compared to Google News. But what were they buying? As Pam pointed out, there's no like Beatles stockpile of recordings. What content are they buying? It's commodity content to a large degree, right?
Well, there's also AOL movies, whatever those are. I mean, I don't know what they're buying. Oh, plus they're buying some huge number of people that are forking over $20 a month for dial-up access.
A couple million. And guys like me who write for free for the HuffPost site. Okay, so we'll see as that advances. Facebook is encouraging publishers.
There are still people who pay $20 a month for
Yep.
dial-up
Yep.
access.
There are a lot of people.
A couple
Here's
million.
a good one. AOL dial-up usage is 10% of what it was at its height, but that's still 10% of a hell of a lot.
A friend of mine is still on AOL dial-up.
It's
I'm
millions,
like,
yeah.
"Ooh."
It's probably hugely profitable. They probably make a lot more from that than they do. I don't know if that even would stem the losses from HuffPost. Facebook is encouraging publishers to put content directly on Facebook so it will load faster. Is this logical, or yet another move toward more walled gardens of content competing against the open web, Alan?
Well, yeah, it's a move to compete against the open web, and Facebook's in a good position to do it, and it's a really nice smack against Google.
But from the consumer's standpoint, there is a big difference between reading a story that's already loaded on Facebook versus clicking to some local Fox station's shitty web video player and blah blah blah.
That's it. This is big and this is different. This is forcing it into a mobile-friendly format, and giving the news site a hefty chunk of the ad revenue, as opposed to what Google is doing, which is essentially stealing their content, not giving them anything, and giving them pennies on the dollar.
And some European mobile carriers, and while he's answering, I'm going to check for comments from you folks. Some European mobile carriers may block Google ads in an attempt to force Google to negotiate to pay European mobile carriers so that European mobile carrier users can actually get access to the content that they're paying the mobile carriers to access. If you can figure out all that math, Alan, this is another European.
I don't think it's European. I think these are carriers in this case. I think it's a case that's what the carriers are positioned to lose. Unfortunately, I don't think Google is well positioned to smack them down yet, but that's what Google's trying to do with Fi.
This is, everyone's getting into everyone else's thing.
Well, everyone always wanted to, because they realized that, in order to make money, that's what they got to do.
And this gets to, there's a theme here for a lot of these stories. If the FCC, and that's only U.S., there is no net neutrality law from a European FCC. They've been negotiating or arguing about this for years. There is no thing that they'd be violating and doing this that we know of. But the thing is, if the FCC is going to tell Verizon and Comcast and Cablevision, etc., you're only allowed to be a dumb pipe, plus the cable TV component. But on the internet, you just have to be a dumb pipe. You can charge whatever you want, but that's it. So they're going to say you get your $100 a month, and that's it. So it's no surprise that Verizon is buying AOL as a moonshot to see if they can fix it. In the same way that, for different reasons, Bezos bought the Washington Post to see if he could figure out how to do content and make a profit from it. So I think we're going to see more of this. And I say from the consumer standpoint, all these are positive developments, with the exception of the Europeans trying to charge Google, because that's just going to...
I don't think it's positive at all, to be honest.
I mean, I think like the Facebook thing, putting faster stuff there, it's going to force these guys... Because as a content producer, right, today we had an update to local guys...
But here's the thing. We don't know what the terms are of that. We don't know what the side effects... we don't know what other arrangements they could have. Is the fact that...
The terms are, if they sell the ad, they get...
Is the fact that the National Geographic is now on Facebook mean that they're not on the web? Did we just lose net neutrality because they just sold out to Facebook?
I think it's not going to be 100% buy-in. I think it's going to be just like they're. I don't think. What's the difference between National
You don't
Geographic
need-
having a YouTube channel and then monetizing some of their content on YouTube, in addition to having the same adorable cheetah video on the web? What's the difference between that and them doing the same thing on Facebook and making revenue from Facebook? The news here is that Facebook is going to start sharing revenue with publishers.
Well,
It's
but
no
here's the
different
thing.
than putting a video on YouTube.
Dan, if I'm getting 70% by going through Facebook, and
Or
1%
selling it
by
yourself
going,
for 100%.
and 1% by going through Google, which would I do?
That's not analogous. I mean, that's you get.
It's perfectly analogous.
No, if you have a pre-roll
Exactly
on a YouTube
the
video.
scenario. That's exactly the scenario right now. You get diddly squat if you use Google's ads.
Right. I've
You get
stopped.
70% if you use Facebook. What are you going to do, Dan?
Well, you get 70% of a penny versus probably 60
Versus
or 70%.
1% of a penny.
You don't get 1% of the gross revenue with Google Ads. You get probably 60 or some percent, something fairly comparable to that. But it's like, okay, wow, now what's the difference between 60 and 70% of 5 cents a week? You know, that's the problem. I mean, no, that's the problem. Mobile ads suck. Internet web ads sucked, and nobody made any money. That's why all these places went bankrupt and or shut down or downsizing. And now everyone's going to mobile, where it's even shittier. Ads suck for the consumer. There's no money in it. Nobody wants to click through an ad. I'd just as soon close the thing rather than sit through that. And a lot of people have metered bandwidth on mobile that they don't have, because a lot of the net neutrality protections until the recent thing did not apply to mobile. That applied to desktop and conventional, stationary internet access. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you pay the small town news outlet, a town of 2,000 people, pay the lady or the man to sit in the town council meeting and do the write-up that only 300 people give a damn about. The old newspaper model worked, and the new stuff doesn't. And so you're not going to have the person, and these little boss hogs are going to get away with murder because nobody's watching the hen house. And I don't think running it up on Facebook or relying on BuzzFeed or some blogger to have the reach and the credibility and the editorial oversight that you would have seen from the little person going through the local little newspaper circulation 1,200. I don't think that it's going to supplant that, and I think it's going to be a disaster. But hopefully the Bezoses and the Zuckerbergs will figure out a way to accomplish all those things. And then driverless cars roaming around Silicon Valley. Alan, are you petrified, or is this a good thing, or is this kind of a non-event because it's just really an incremental advancement on the testing that they've been doing for quite some time, and there are many different companies competing for this space?
I want to ride one.
So that's not a negative.
Dan, how can you talk about the fact, I mean, not 10 minutes ago, we were just talking about railroads
Right.
implementing this.
No, I'm for it. I just was trolling you. Egging you on, if you will.
I want to ride it.
What'd
I
you
want
think?
in.
What'd you
I'd
think?
be in one of those things in a second if it pulled over to my curb while I was out there for I.O.
Did you see the Recode article about glass?
I did. I'm still working on a response saying just how much of a fucking idiot that guy was.
He said it was the worst $1,500 he ever spent. We'll do it next week. After we can talk about what you have had time to do the response.
I mean, I'm working on a response, but I mean, basically, he's
You want to get him on the show?
sure if you want.
If he's got the balls.
If you
We
want,
can invite him.
you
He
know,
might, because it'll be an intellectual debate. You tend to actually be on your best behavior with a strong adversary.
Because he's arguing from a point of ignorance. I refuse to have a battle of wits with an unarmed person.
Game on, ladies.
The article was full of nonsense,
It was clickbait to a degree. But
ignorance. That's
He said
all there is
that-
to it.
he said basically it was the worst $1,500 I've ever spent. It was ugly, obtrusive from the get-go. The UI sucked. It always sucked. Everything sucked. It was a very negative view of glass.
Yeah.
It was not impartial.
I mean, I've had better debate. I mean, I'm in the middle of better debates on people who are replying to my post, who are at least arguing from some points of intelligence. They're wrong still, but at least they're discussing this from a point of intelligence. That guy clearly was not. Clearly, this guy, lived in the Silicon Valley ignorance bubble.
And they probably got 1 million clicks on the article and probably made about 50 cents from all those clicks.
Which for once this month was less than how much I made on my book. My book actually sold fairly well a couple of months ago.
Excellent.
Otherwise, I need to tell Jason.
Well, shouldn't he be getting half of it?
Well, no, he should be getting the same amount that I did.
Which would be half of your split.
Yes.
Do you get a better split than Facebook would have given you?
I don't know.
I imagine it's comparable on digital sales, and on print sales it's far less.
I don't actually remember what our cuts are.
Would it buy you a train ticket to Philadelphia?
Oh yeah, this month sold fairly well, or whatever month I just received my check for.
Excellent.
Sold fairly well.
Any other burning issues before we get to our week?
IO's coming up soon.
Yeah, when does it start?
It starts a week and a half.
You think that, and if we do a hangout, will the NSA be watching?
What makes you
Intercepting?
think they're not already watching, Dan? Dan, it's a freaking public transmission that we're doing right now.
I'd be outraged if the NSA were watching. Please watch and do it from a computer. Don't subpoena anybody. Do it so it clicks on it, so I get a view. For my non-monetized, money-sucking, time-sucking hole. Sheila Dubois in West Jordan, Utah. How was your week, young lady?
My Google Plus week or just my week period.
Either way, or a mixture.
It's okay. Still dealing with healing from taking molars out. My brother just had to inform me that you're over 50. You're going to heal a lot slower.
Now, that's different than wisdom teeth.
Yes. Yeah, I've always had those pulled, but mine were abscessing, so yeah, pulled them out.
So were you high on dentists' drugs?
Happy gas, yeah. Not enough.
Um,
Other than that, we're good.
all right. Awesome. Well, it would have been more fun if you'd had some of that right before the show, but that's okay. we like sober Sheila as well. Pam Adger, how was your Google Plus week?
Pretty boring.
That's a rare comment from you.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing happened. Nothing exciting. No tidbits, no drama, no nothing. So
I'll just do a shout out to Alan Shapiro. It's his birthday today.
Happy birthday, Alan Shapiro.
Yeah.
If you don't have Alan Shapiro, if you're not following Alan Shapiro, and I checked out his collections, he's
You
not
should.
populating them much. You should be. He does some awesome
That's
photography.
right. And he loves flowers. He loves taking people, but he's excellent in what he does. So yeah, happy birthday, Alan.
I've met the man. He's funny as hell. He's a great guy. I went on a photo walk with him once. Despite the fact he spells his name funny, he's a great guy.
Alan Furstenberg, how was your Google Plus week? Busy.
Busy, very busy. I'm trying to get a bunch of stuff done before I head out for I/O. Really looking forward to I/O. It's going to be interesting.
It's that last chapter of your upcoming Nexus Q book. It's the clincher.
Damn.
When I wrote my game, the first 80% was took 20% of the time. The last 20% took 80% of the time. It's the end that's the hardest. Did you find that with your book?
No.
Yours was just pretty consistent?
Yeah.
Or you just wanted a dictaphone and Jason did all the work?
No. No, Jason and I had a bunch of interesting sessions trying to get the book done. No, so I'm looking forward to I/O. There was a bit where I was like, I don't know. Looks like it might be dull this year, but I'm looking forward to it now more than I was before.
Okay.
Is that because you now know more than you did before?
You mean no? It's not. Unfortunately, not. I mean, I wish I did know some of. Let me put it this way: there are some things that I wish was going to happen that nobody's been able to confirm, and I have a feeling they're not going to. But no, I don't know any big secrets.
Do you think it's going to be there's been a lot of people leaving Google for other companies lately. Google Plus has seen a change in leadership twice in the last year or so. And
yeah, but Bez is still inside Google. He's just working on a different project now.
do you think that this is going to be like a maintenance release I/O, or do you think this is going to be a barnstorm? Wow, oh my God! We've seen both.
That's an odd question. I mean, I think we're going to see a lot of. I don't think we're going to see anything big, new, and revolutionary come out of this I/O.
So it's going to be I/O 2014S.
I mean, we're going to hear about Android M, obviously. We're going to see a lot of the things that were kind of introduced or hinted at last year. They're real products now, so we're going to be able to, we're going to be talking about them for real. So whereas last year we kind of talked, well, there's this Android Wear that you can now put on your wrists as of the second day of I/O. And here, sit in one of our cars, and you can sort of get a feel for what auto is going to look like, maybe. And yeah, we're going to give you guys these Android TV things, and we're still kind of working on them.
Boy, if they
Whereas
gave
this
you
year-
all, if you walk up there and there's like, 2,500 little cars with ribbons around them, you'll be a happy camper.
that would be amusing. I don't think it's going to happen though, and I don't think we're even going to get an Android Auto kit for the simple reason that would just be a pain in the ass to install.
Is
And-
Project Aura going to go anywhere, or is that gimmicky?
what?
Was it Project Aura?
Aura?
The component concept of a phone where you assemble the components yourself or whatever. Is that too quirky and niche, or is that something that we're going to see people doing?
Everyone misunderstands what Aura is really about. Let me put it to you this way. You've seen those. One of the things we've seen a lot of in the past couple of years are people who are selling things that'll plug into your headphone jack and do stuff. So we first saw this, for example, with Square. They made a card reader that plugged into the headphone jack. You can swipe a card reader. Congratulations, your phone is now a card reader. You started seeing that with a lot of other ones. You started seeing medical devices that did that. You saw a lot of other things. That's the space that Aura is trying to move into. So instead of requiring you to plug into a headphone jack, it's just part of your phone. It's just there. And we know Google's going ahead with this because they're going to be doing field trials in Puerto Rico later this year. So that's a go. Is it going to be that everyone has a Project Aura phone in the future? No, probably not. It's still going to be a bit of a niche product for a couple of years now, I imagine. But I think it's an important and useful area to explore. Being able to just pop, I can actually see this more in the sense of you're going to see phones that are actually things like game consoles. So, a 3DS is going to be replaced with a Project Aura compatible device. So that you can actually essentially just pop in a cartridge, because that's all these things can be, are cartridges.
Okay.
So Ara's got a bright future, but I think that future is at least a year away.
The hot swappable
Tango.
phone.
Tango is really the thing to watch out for. I think Tango is going to be doing some amazing things in the next year. We saw the first trial. We saw the first playing around with that at last year's I/O. Tango devices are now out there for people to play with. I think you're going to see more about Tango discussed in this one. It's interesting to see that there's sessions on virtual reality in this one, so maybe we'll see something from Magic Eye. It's interesting. Some interesting stuff coming. I don't think this is going to be jump out of a blimp onto the roof type I/O, though.
Okay, so we got some comments here. I'm going to go to them, and we see, where are we? Okay, on Plus, there's Pam this week. Okay, there you go. This show, Sai says, this show is my happy gas. And says, Dan is advocating driverless trains, indeed. So let me go back to YouTube, and let's look at comments there. We got quite a few here. Let me find the one. Okay, Devish said there was no audio for a while. I guess that was temporary because we got comments after that. How can one explain that China, just climbing out of poverty, has a maglev line, and the U.S., who should be at the apex of new tech, has trains that go at the speed of ox-drawn carts? You know, that's interesting because we just saw in the news that they built a skyscraper in like 3 weeks or less. And when our own Mike Ellis went to, it wasn't Beijing, but it was one of the areas of China, he said he saw a lot of development, and some of it appeared to be like, he saw this one big giant, I don't know if it was a mall or a big apartment building or office building or something, but it was huge. And he said you walk up and it appeared to be like hastily built and shabbily built, like some of the, when you're walking the sidewalk, it was sort of cracking and disheveled, if you will, and that there were no occupants, no tenants. So I'm not sure what the deal is. It may be they may be getting more credit than is due.
It actually is really simple to explain why.
Go ahead.
It's called the Fifth Amendment.
The
we
what?
have it, China doesn't.
The
Fifth
what?
Amendment, Dan. You might have heard of it.
The Fifth Amendment?
Yes.
What's it got to do with trains? Unlawful search and seizure. That's the Fifth Amendment is the self-incrimination.
No.
I plead the Fifth.
Oh, sorry. I think I meant the third.
No? So I would be right and you would be...
No, Fifth Amendment.
Okay. Perhaps Alan has stumbled upon a lesser-known part of the Fifth Amendment.
Takings clause, an eminent domain.
It's got nothing to do with this new system.
Has everything to do with this.
The railroads are powerful. I mean, beyond powerful. They can just take your land.
In the U.S.?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
They used to be able to.
The railroads are almost solely subsidized by the government.
Well,
they make no money.
They lose a horrendous amount of money.
Amtrak
makes almost no money.
They
lose.
Except in the Northeast Corridor. The Northeast Corridor is too crowded for them to actually straighten out lines. They can't build any. When was the last time a new railway line was built, Dan?
Well, gee, in the list of handy topics I have in my head, that's not one of them. I don't know.
Well, I might be a little off on year, but I believe it dates to around the 19th century.
I could believe that. At some point, they invented a car.
Well, we could talk about cars.
I mean,
sure.
they're building track. They're just not building track in populated areas. I mean, I've seen them build track here.
I said lines, not track.
Yeah. But yeah, they're adding to current lines, or they're making them side by side, or you have 2 or 3 side by side, laying brand new,
But in general, since the early 20th century, did I say 18th century? I think I meant 19th century.
No, you said
Is
19th
it
century.
19th? Okay. Since the middle of the 20th century, they've been largely pulling up track.
Mhm.
And the reason is because most states have tax laws that tax based on number of track miles, not based on how much property the railroads have. So if they weren't using double track, they were they pulled up those tracks.
Yeah.
And especially in the Northeast Corridor, less so in the Midwest, but especially in the Northeast Corridor, they've been unable to put in any new tracks because, nobody wants to have their house bulldozed to straighten out the tracks.
Mhm.
And that's why the Fifth Amendment is relevant.
I thought that railroads were extremely powerful in
No.
taking land.
No, not anymore.
Okay.
They haven't been for at least a century.
George Cozy says someone on Google Plus asked, how can we trust self-driving cars? I asked him if he trusts the pacemakers that are put into the body.
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't trust a pacemaker?
Good Lord, no. Do you know how many security violations those things have?
Weren't they worried about that with Vice President Cheney? Seriously, I think he said that the Secret Service was all freaked out about
Yeah,
his
they were.
pacemaker.
They had they pulled the transmitters on Cheney's pacemaker. No, there are serious security vulnerabilities in all major pacemakers out there right now.
My sister's an RN. She said that they're so good that when it's like your time to go, they actually have to disconnect it because they keep shocking you back. Or no, that's the defib.
But here's the problem I have, George. Let me put it to you this way, George. How many times on Google Plus have you seen messages formatted wrong? Have you gotten the error message that says, oops, I'm unable to do that right now? Has something gotten just screwed up on Google Plus? Now picture that happening to your car while you're traveling 50 miles per hour.
Or your
Pam's
phone
laughing
like
right
is
now.
screwed up. Absolutely, that's my concern.
And it's my concern too, but here's the bigger thing.
Unfortunately, you see people doing stuff like,
That's it.
texting and whatever. I kind of, it's
That-
6 of one, half a dozen of
Yeah,
the
like
other.
we talked about the 787, the Boeing Dreamliner. It has to be rebooted every 280 some flights. Can you imagine if the guy forgot? Hey, passengers, this is your captain speaking. I neglected. Everyone, just hang on for a minute. I got to reboot the airplane over the Atlantic Ocean. My TV reboots. My television used to be able to just bang it on the side. Now there's no side, and it reboots.
I mean, here's the problem. Right.
How can you have a set-top box when there's no set-top?
Why do you need a set? Never mind. Here's the issue. Yeah, cars are going to have security problems. They're going to have bugs. The problem is human drivers have even bigger bugs right now. So it's not that I don't trust computers to drive the cars themselves, because I don't. It's just that I trust humans even less.
Okay, so George also says it's a pity that Google's car looks a little like Snoopy's little police car. And Michael Daniels says, I love the driverless cars. I want to ride one as well, in response to Alan's comment. He says, Michael, continuing, I'd love to finally be able to come watch the show tonight. I miss the show every week since I have started the Plus Word game show on Friday nights. We have a scheduling snafu there. New this week, for your information, Google Forums released their new format. They modernized and looks really good. We'll have to check that out. He notes that I.O.'s May 28th and 29th, so it's coming up soon, a couple weeks. If that, Alan, has Google lost some of its oomph? Asks George Cozy. Probably in response to is this going to be like I.O. 2014S or a big shindig. And Michael Daniel says the last spike in a railroad line was May 10, 1869.
I want to know his source on that one, but
And
thank
what do
you
we,
for
what's
that.
your definition of railroad? Because I know like metro lines and subways, aren't they trains on a rail? Because in my lifetime, I saw them extend the metro in D.C. All
So
the way
they
to
didn't
Vienna,
extend
wherever.
the metro in DC, Dan. They built the metro in DC. No, those are considered light rail.
Okay.
Trains are a totally different system.
Is it true about the Roman chariots?
However, the brand new light rail system that goes between two cities down here that they finished building will also accommodate the freight trains.
Is it true about the Roman chariot, the width of the wheels, and that as each subsequent iteration from horse
I
chariots?
don't know. Why don't you research that one and let us know next week?
I
Dan?
think I read it. It was one of those things like from Wikipedia or something. You're afraid to just go on a limb and repeat.
No,
You know?
Dan, it's one of those things that you read on Facebook in a GIF that someone posted.
Oh my God! I've just been. That's an indictment. That's basically an indictment. So my week, I was sad to see BB King go. I'm not a big blues fan, but anything's good if you hear it live. I never got to hear him live. But he was. I did some research. I always was aware of him. You know, he made so many TV appearances, and he was a very prolific entertainer. I think he did over 100 shows a year until recently, and he was, I think, old, right? 89 or 79 or whatever he was, but he was great, and it was interesting. He was very humble. He said he was always searching for that sound. He couldn't describe it, but he'd know it when he heard it. He was always searching for it. He was always frustrated because he could never attain it. He was kind of an innovator, and there was a song, I think, I read one thing, and I don't know, everyone glamorizes someone after they die, so I don't know how much of this, because I'm not a blues expert, but they said, like, prior to him, that most people would just, him and probably others in the same era, because everyone's influenced by everybody, but they would kind of, when the electric guitars first came out, they would kind of play acoustic guitar on the electric guitar. Like, you can play piano on the guitar and vice versa, I mean, the way the chords are, but he really, you know, that kind of stuff. It was a different thing, and it really, people freaked out. And there was I forget the name of it, but it was a 1951 song of his. But I would encourage anybody who's marginally interested in BB King to do a little reading. And it's a fascinating guy from a different era. 70 years ago, he made his debut, and he was still performing until last year or whatever. And he's just an American legend of blues, and quoted by, the Beatles and the Rolling Stones quoted him as a major influence. It was a big deal. So check that out. Blues and jazz music are wonderful things that America has brought. Jazz probably more so. I think blues is more international, but I could be wrong. Anyway, thank you all very much for watching. My week was good.
Before we end, Dan, I actually did look up
Okay.
railroad gauges,
Yes.
and just in the first paragraph of looking it up, I was reminded of something that kind of proves why that whole statement was total bullshit. There isn't nowadays there is a standard railroad gauge, but there, even as much as 60 years ago, there wasn't. You know, the railroad gauge sizes in Europe during World War II were different. And there needed to be converters to run trains on the different gauge tracks.
I was asking. I wasn't stating as fact, and I did a caveat. It's like one of those things you see. Like,
No, Dan, I'm not telling you you're an idiot for being wrong.
I wasn't wrong. I asked the question. Is there any truth to it? I didn't state it was
but like
true.
I said, I didn't say you were an idiot for being wrong. I wasn't accusing you of that at all.
What amount of preparation is required to emerge unscathed for this show? It's like one of those things you see on the internet, like 6 people a year are killed by falling coconuts. Well, how do you know that? Who tracks that? What agency tracks that?
The Center for Disease Control.
And it's 10, not 6.
Is it true that the most expensive coffee is shit out by the little rodent?
No, it's a cat.
It's a
I
cat.
thought it was an elephant.
It's a cat.
But we grew
It's a
up
cat.
thinking like lard
The
was
serv-
going to kill you,
serval
and
or-
vegetable oil was like
The civet
the
cat.
civet cat. That
Yeah.
we were told that lard and butter and eggs were all going to kill you, and that vegetable, hydrogenated vegetable oil was the way to go. And turns out that's all bullshit. And half of the crap that you see in a Whole Foods is just a scam, snake oil. But anyway, we were a lot skinnier when everyone smoked and ate lard, and now we're all fat.
No shit, huh?
You know. Anyway, so I did the paper this week. It was crazy. It was a 22-hour day. I started Thursday at 5:30 in the morning. I finished at 4:30 in the morning Friday morning, and then I slept till about 10:30 today, and got up and dropped the toothpaste off at the school, my mission, and then went for a walk in the park. And some guy made fun of me because I was walking in circles in the overlook. And he's like, "You trying to get a bar?" Because I was prepping for the show. I was on Twitter doing a search for anything about Google and deciding what to add to Flipboard and operating in the cloud, under the clouds, and got mocked by some dude with a dog and a bicycle who looked like he was having a lot more fun than I was on Twitter. So anyway, other than that, I had a pretty good week, I guess. And I don't know, rolls downhill, right?
Yep.
So. Thank you all for watching. We appreciate it. Any final words, final thoughts?
Next week we'll be having our I/O preparation show.
Preparation for what, though, Alan? You always promise you'll do specials from I/O, and you can't because there's no bandwidth. Because Google, like Apple, can't imagine in 2015.
He didn't say show from I/O. He said the prep.
Well,
We get feed from I/O. We can go and get feed from I/O. We don't have to rely on Alan to be standing there with his Chromebook trying to find the Wi-Fi signal.
And it's
I do hope to be doing some transmissions via glass. But yeah, bandwidth is an issue. Last year I was live blogging the keynote. I was making fun of you during the keynote, Dan, you'll remember.
sadly not a change of pace for Alan. I probably have a better view here.
Well, it's going to be interesting. This year's format is a little different than previous years. So previous years, they used to, every session, every hour they would have about 10 or so sessions in conference rooms. This year, it looks like they narrowed the conference rooms down to 3. So, you'll be seeing the keynote, same as I will, and then, up to 3 sessions an hour. And a lot of the rest of the stuff that's going on won't be recorded.
Is that a bad thing? We talked about this, I think.
I'll be there, so it won't be, I'll be getting the stuff, you won't.
Well, the keynote, okay, the actual networking and the excitement of being there and meeting people, all that stuff, being at the different sessions in person, being able to ask questions, that is worth it. The keynote itself, it's kind of like the Super Bowl or the Masters golf tournament. Really, Pam and I watching from home or offices actually have a better experience than you probably would, because we can see it on the television, and we have a bathroom.
Sense, yes, you'll be able to see it and hear it, and you'll be able to have snacks while doing so, and you won't have to, try to get your tickets the day before, and be subjected to various.
Spend thousands of dollars to get a Nexus Q.
On the other hand, it is pretty damn cool to be sitting, few dozen feet from Larry or Sergey.
That was pretty neat when Larry came out. And I remember that's why, because I remember there was the big discussion about his health issues. Rumors, he's going to die because, Steve Jobs was sick or dead. I can't remember which. And then they did a big press release about his voice was deteriorating for some reason or whatever it was. And then it made sense because just a few days later was I/O, and he came out and did a Q&A, and he knew that his voice situation would be exposed at that. I'm sure that's why they came out with the announcement prior to that. But yeah, those guys have some game. in this passing fad that we call the internet. All right, so thank you all very much. We have two programs. One is called Our Android Week. That is every Monday night at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific. 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific, Monday nights, where we discuss all things Android. That's the phone in the phone store. This program is Google Plus Week, allegedly at 8:30 Eastern on Friday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, 5:30 p.m. Pacific, where we discuss tech news with a fun focus, largely centered at me as the punching bag for an entire panel. But I willingly do it. Anyway, so thank you all very much for watching. We appreciate it. Thanks so much for the comments, and we'll check them out after. And George says, I'll be watching to see if Google will talk to its users this I/O keynote or totally ignore them.
Again with this. George.
Did you just break into Yiddish?
No.
Again with the European thing.
Break into Yiddish. I know do Yiddish so well. Now, George, I understand what you're saying. I understand.
What is he
your
saying? I don't
concerns.
understand what he's saying.
He's remembering back to 2012 and 2013 when what's his name, Vic, got up on stage and rolled out, in 2012 we were celebrating Google Plus's first anniversary at I/O. And the keynote had Vic on stage celebrating Google Plus. And 2013, Vic announced a pile of new features from I/O for Google Plus. And in 2014, Google Plus was barely mentioned. And lots of people freaked out about that. Okay, but here's the thing. I said it then, I'll say it again. This is a developers conference. I can almost guarantee we're going to hear next to nothing about Google Plus.
A quick glance at the topics listed as of when I last checked showed 0 mentions of Google Plus.
Should we discuss the other things that have no mention?
Yeah, but you can make a comparison between that year and subsequent years. In other words, it was like all over the place, and then it was absent.
Well, that's because I/O was Vic's baby, and so was Google Plus.
Yeah, Vic created I/O, right?
Yes, Vic.
And also,
Vic
clearly, that was their big push into social that year, so naturally, that's their new thing. Like Project Loom was probably mentioned in one I/O and other things, and then like the next year, it wasn't the new thing.
I don't believe Loom's been mentioned at I/O before, but it's getting a session or two this year.
Yeah, but anything that's new is by definition news. It's new, and so it's going to get a big mention if it's a new thing they're introducing. And I/O is one method to push it.
But here's the thing. Generally, I/O has a developer focus. Even when they talk about consumer level stuff, they still have a developer focus to it. Google Plus was an exception those 2 years. So I'm not predicting anything. I'm not predicting that Google Plus will be mentioned much, if at all.
Okay.
Certainly not during the keynote.
He's playing the lower expectations game to minimize any criticism from the Netherlands, which is sure to come either way.
I understand what George is saying, and to some level I agree. I do wish that Google had a consumer level keynote presentation like thing. But they don't, and this is the wrong place for it.
And I do have a specific question, then I'll close, for George in the Netherlands, because you're an example I brought up earlier. I think you joined us later. In your situation, if I understand what you said correctly before, you had one company come in and they install the fiber, and then they're like a wholesaler, and other companies, that company may or may not sell connectivity as well, phone or internet, tape, TV, whatever. But other companies can use that fiber backbone, which was encouraged by the local government to be built, and probably some incentives or what have you. And that there are multiple companies that can sell you internet access or telephone service or television or other content. In that scenario, as opposed to ours, where typically it's one company that lays the infrastructure and provides all the services and doesn't let others piggyback. How are you seeing companies compete with each other? Like if there's 7 different companies that sell broadband, do some throw in, the example I used was maybe they'll throw in Netflix, or another one will throw in some European version of whatever it is. How are you seeing, you may be uniquely suited to actually have multiple companies competing. What are you seeing them offering to differentiate themselves other than throughput and price? I'm just very curious on your perspective on that, because I'm hoping, I talked to a friend of mine who's a senator here in Virginia, and he was very opposed to municipal broadband, but he said he would be for a municipality allowing a company to come in and do what would happen in your case, where one company lays the infrastructure and charges a wholesale rate, and anybody can use it. If Cox or Cablevision or Comcast or whoever wants to come in and sell service over that, they just pay this company a wholesale rate and they can access you, and then there's a bunch of competitors. That would be very exciting to see. Thank you all for watching. We appreciate it. Your comments, and especially the funny, witty ones, especially if you're making fun of me or Alan, are really appreciated. And you're the reason we do the show. So thank you very much. And the thrill is gone until next week. Shout out to BB King and all of his fans. He was great. And shout out to Brad, Tech Webcast. It's happening tonight. TechWebcast.info. #1 show in Australia about tech and other stuff. Thank you all very much. We appreciate it. Have a wonderful Google Plus week.